Hello. So, every day of the calendar seems to be connected with a theme, a holiday, a special event, a person. And so I found out that July 2nd, earlier this month, is known as World UFO Day. Did you know that? I didn't. And so it made me think of the Phoenix Lights. Have you ever heard of the Phoenix Lights? Maybe you were one that went out searching and wanted to see for yourself what all this hype was about, and you wanted to see for yourself this phenomenal aircraft that everyone was talking about and saying that they saw hovering across several states in the West, including Arizona. So, as we talk a little bit about the history of the Phoenix Lights, I want you to think of this question. Would you believe it if you were one of those witnesses? Phoenix Lights was a mass UFO sighting that swept across a whole state and soon became a global legend. Known as the Phoenix Lights, the events of March 13th, 1997. So all these recorded and reported sightings happened on March 13th, 1997. Consisted of two mass UFO sightings that were witnessed by thousands of people from Phoenix to Tucson. For weeks, the event was limited to local folklore, but when USA Today ran a front page story on the event, the Phoenix Lights shot to prominence, and the events have been a mainstay of UFO documentaries ever since, and a movie was even made based off of this sighting. And these sightings not only occurred in Phoenix, but were seen in Nevada as well as New Mexico. It says that the varying witness testimonies have made it difficult to break down the sightings of March 13th, but it is generally agreed that there were two distinct events occurring within a few hours of each other. And we're going to kind of go through a timeline of these sightings. The first came in the form of a V-shaped light formation that was initially witnessed on the Nevada-Arizona border before moving south through Phoenix south toward Tucson. And then the second and more widely reported set of sightings were more localized to the Phoenix area and consisted of a formation estimated to be larger than a football field. This second event would hang in the sky for about 30 minutes and was captured on film by countless witnesses. Now we're going to play a couple videos I found that are talking with two witnesses that saw this UFO sighting and what it looked like and just what they encountered. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss the timeline.
This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking. And I'm not sure about the date. You've got a better memory
March
for the
13th.
dates than I do. Yeah.
But there was no, like the Clinton day, no.
No. No. I was on a strict diet. No, I'm serious. I'm serious now. That unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Right. Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying. So it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget, I snuck out to see it. without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing. And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it." And
Wow.
so
Did it frighten you?
no, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights, and so that's what I saw, and I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke to the west, and then all of a sudden these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that." And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over
It wasn't,
Bob.
it wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And, I said to somebody that night, I said, well, when they do test these, they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it. Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government that they were kind of flying around?
No, it wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big.
Right.
If it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the analogy. Can you imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777? What his reaction would be? He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world,
Is that what?
And I think I really believe that. I believe that. But I've always been open to that. We're not alone in the universe.
I agree with you.
We're going to find that. We're going to find that out one way or the other. Even Bill Clinton was talking about that the other day on the national news.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I do believe that we're not alone. I just don't know that we've been visited. But you think maybe that night we were?
I think so, yeah. There have been so many different sort of sightings and inexplicable phenomena that, but the disparity in terms of technological progress would be so vast that we would be, I think, of sort of no consequence to whoever is visiting us, because the technology to get here would be just beyond anything we could imagine.
Did it hover?
No, it was just going in a straight line.
Slow pace?
Yeah, slow pace, yeah. And then, there were all the
Not
sightings.
flares.
There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky? Is that about as close
Yeah,
as you could?
I think that's a fair description,
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's our next generation we're working on. Who knows?
Well, we'll find out it someday.
Okay, so here's the timeline of the Phoenix Lights. So again, this occurred on March 13th, 1997, so 23 years ago. So apparently at night, this is military time, 19 hours and 55 minutes Mountain Standard Time, there was an initial report sighting in Henderson, Nevada. And the witness, a man, reports seeing a V-shaped object with 6 lights on leading edge. He said it was the size of a Boeing 747 and sounded like rushing wind. So that was the initial sighting at 19 hours and 55 minutes, Mountain Standard Time. And then at 20 hours and 15 minutes, a former police officer sighted this object in the air. He claims he was driving north when a cluster of reddish-orange lights in the sky. There was 4 lights together and a fifth one trailing the others. And to the witness, it was in a formation consisted of 2 separate points, sources of orange lights. Okay, and then at 20 hours and 17 minutes, it was sighted in Prescott and Prescott Valley. It says several callers reported sightings of a solid object that blocked much of the sky as it passed over. The Kaiser family, the John Kaiser family, stood outside their home as they witnessed a cluster of red lights forming a triangle portion, except the nose of the object, which was white. So it sounds like most of the sighting reports, it was like in a V shape. And then the Kaiser family said that there was orange lights, and then the very point there was a white light. There was no sound, however, heard. The witnesses said that it hovered overhead for 2 to 3 minutes before disappearing to the southeast. Okay, and now at 20 hours and 40 minutes, it arrived in Phoenix. It says that a family witnessed what they say was a 60-degree carpenter's square with 5 lights, traveled slowly, then hovered in silence before heading towards Sky Harbor Airport. Witnesses in Glendale, including a cement truck driver who was hauling a load in North Phoenix, reported the lighted object hovered over the area for more than 2 hours. Okay. So that was in 1997, and then supposedly there were future sightings in 2007 and 2008. Near Kingman, a young man traveling toward Los Angeles reports a large, bizarre cluster of stars moving slowly across the northern sky. On February 6, 2007, so this was, 97, right? 10 years later. A repeat of lights occurred, however, according to military officers. They were just flares, drops from a F-16 aircraft training at Luke Air Force Base. So it sounds like the government was, they report that they were doing some training. And then a year later, on April 21st, 2008, a Phoenix resident reported 3 jets heading in the same direction of the lights, but United States Air Forces denies any activity in that area at that time. And then the next day, on April 22nd, 2008, there was a false sighting after confirmations that a resident released helium balloons into the air with flares attached, playing a prank. So I don't know, do you believe in UFOs?
It was March 13th, 1997, when something very unusual appeared in the Arizona night sky.
What has become the most witnessed, most documented, most important mass aerial sighting in modern history, called the Phoenix Lights.
Well over 10,000 people witnessed seeing enormous crafts with big round lights flying low over the city.
I don't know what they were, but I know that they were.
And this eyewitness, Dr. Lynn Kitai, made international headlines with her subsequent book and documentary recounting this paranormal phenomenon. So she breaks down the event and its impact, starting with what people saw that fateful night.
Witnesses described these massive 1 to 8 mile wide objects.
We all looked up at the same time and saw this amazing, huge, dark, silent object.
A visual described by those who saw it as a V-shaped craft with amber orbs.
The lights resembled can lights.
What struck me was the sheer size of these lights.
It was almost as if the orb was crafted out of light.
Next, what happened after this paranormal event? Over the years, there have been reports of other similar sightings from around the world, and a number of expert military witnesses have come forward acknowledging the Phoenix Lights as an official, important UFO sighting.
And that's lending more credibility to the whole topic.
Plus, there's another interesting follow-up to this story.
Yet there hasn't been not one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights.
In fact, it's been quite the contrary.
People were in awe and in wonder, curious. I've had so many people tell me that they feel blessed to have had the experience.
Finally, what happens next? Dr. Lynn says a deeper examination of the Phoenix Lights photographic and video evidence can help prepare people for the next paranormal event.
Now we have data, credible data, to actually look at and see that this is real, and that it's time to get this topic out in the open, address it and study it, as well as move forward in our own evolution.
We're learning about the mystery and the magic behind the Phoenix Lights.
Do you believe that there is life outside of this earth? Do you think that the Phoenix Lights were actual UFO sightings, or